So, good morning, guys, and great morning. Welcome to another fabulous episode of Exit Strategies Radio Show. I am your host, Coleman J. Millett, broker and owner of Exit Realty Low Country Group in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina. So, guys, if this is your first time listening to this show, you, sir, or ma'am, are in for a treat. Hey, our mission right over here is very simple. That is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education. Guys, that's what we do. We're legacy building, as I say all the time. So, for those of you who are tuning in, guys, for the first time, hey, y'all are in for an amazing ride. But those who've been on this journey with us for quite some time, look here, because look here, we still going now. We have yet to make it over, but we are definitely still making speed. So, guys, thank y'all so much for tuning in today. We have an awesome guest. We have an awesome show ahead of you. And I'm going to take this moment right now as I'm kind of just giving you a little bit of content and background. I'm going to tell you, go get your pen and paper. Yeah, because y'all want to take some notes today. All right. This guy here, we're always like, we go to the mountaintop to get the best people to bring that word down to us. Those of you who remember that book of Exodus, y'all know what happened now. But we go and get the people and bring the word down to you. And that's what we've done today, guys. We got a celebrity with us today, TV star. I am so blown and so hyped. We have with us none other than Ron Douglas. He is the $1 million mentor. Look, I cannot wait to share this story with you today. Ron, how you doing? And thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
How's it going, man? It's a pleasure. Thanks. I appreciate you having me on.
Quite welcome. Quite welcome. So, Ron, if you don't mind, give our folks like this high level entry as who you are. Ron Douglas, the $1 million mentor, and let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I obviously Ron Douglas. I've got happily married, 8 kids. I've owned over 40 companies. I've had 40 successful exits. I built up a $5 million real estate portfolio in 2 years using $0. And now I'm retired in Southern Colorado, living on a ranch and just relaxing now. So got a little bored and thought I would help people make their first $1 million. So I'm here to teach everybody how to make that first million.
So, look, Ron, that right there was probably blown the majority of our folks away like immediately. All right, look here, over here in the studio with me, I literally have to, he would just got up. Wait a minute, what? He said, what? Oh, hold on. Let me grab my pen and paper and let's make this thing here happen. So let's talk about like, how did you do that? You're an entrepreneur. You managed to leverage and get to this place where within what some would say a relatively short amount of time, you figured out how to, okay, look, we're going to do this. We're going to make this happen and we're going to achieve, quote unquote, what some people would say is a high level of success in a short period of time. So let's walk through that journey. What did that start with? What was your mindset when you looked at doing this?
Well, first of all, I want people to realize I was kicked out in 10th grade. Never
Oh,
graduated
wow.
high school. The first time I was on a college campus, I was actually there to speak. And so anybody can do this. Whether you're flipping burgers at McDonald's or you're mopping floors at the local high school, I want people to realize you already have the skills needed to be a millionaire. Everybody has those skills.
All right. So let's break that down for just a moment. What skills are those?
Literally anything. Okay. So if you're mopping floors at a high school, you just need to change your thoughts. Everybody has the puzzle pieces. You just don't have them in the right places.
Okay.
Instead of mopping floors at the school, why don't you start your own cleaning company? Instead of flipping burgers at McDonald's, why don't you start your own burger stand? Okay. So it's not hard. It doesn't matter what you are doing right now. If you're listening to this radio show, while you're up on a hot roof replacing somebody's roof for your employer, why don't you think about starting your own roofing company? And there's literally no limits to making $1 million. I guarantee you, whatever your skill set is right now, I could point to a dozen millionaires in your arena, whether it's burger flipping, whether it's mopping floors, whether it's roofing. It doesn't matter what it is.
So, Ron, you made that sound like so simple. And look, we're kindred spirits, man. I'm over here literally I'm a big guy. I'm over here literally like in my skin, moving around like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. so, but again, you make it sound so simple. For you, what was it? What was the catalyst for you to, okay, I'm going to do this, and this is where I'm gonna start, and this is how I'm gonna move?
For me, it was deciding that nothing was going to stop me. Once I realized, okay, so I met my first millionaire when I was like 20, in my 20s. First time I ever met a millionaire. And I literally had to sit here and figure out what this guy had that I didn't have. And he
Mhm.
didn't have anything that I didn't have other than $1 million. But he didn't have a higher work ethic. He wasn't smarter than I was. He didn't have more skills than I did. He literally had nothing more than myself. All I'm saying is, once you realize that anybody could be a millionaire, including yourself, you just have to have the right pieces in place and you got to come up with the right game plan. And so, what you need to do is first and foremost, have the confidence. And if you have a spouse, make sure that your spouse is on board,
Okay.
because I will tell you, a spouse will kill this deal faster than anything else. You have to have a supportive spouse in this deal. And my wife was ready to jump on the bandwagon and do whatever I wanted to do. When I quit, I was working at the prison. I was working death row and in Huntsville, Texas. And when
Mm.
I quit, I had $40 to my name and 2 weeks before rent was due. And so I just decided to do it and decided to walk out and do my own thing. And that's what I did. And the rest is history, so they say.
So a couple of things in there. I'm gonna get the joke out first. The joke I got in that when you said your wife was definitely committed, she was in. Because when you talking about, hey, babe, we gonna go make $1 million. Sometimes somebody's thinking, oh, I get to spend $1 million, uh, and that sounds fun, right?
She sure tries. She sure tries.
So, but the other thing that you just said that is very like real for our listeners, guys. Look, we're having fun here. We want you to understand that this is real life, and the success stories that you hear about, the people who have made it, like made, excuse the reference, but uber amounts of money, if you will. Those people, a story like you, Ron. I was down to my very last. They'd say your back against the wall. No, your back was on the floor.
For
And
show.
I love it. And all you can see is up. So that's the only direction that you could go. So,
Yeah.
but let's talk about that. So, look, man, I know you, man, you had to be scared. If you got a wife, you're scared to death, I imagine.
Yeah.
So, what was that first thing that you said, okay, look, this is what I'm going to do, and this is going to help me to start to transform my life?
So the gift that I had at the time, and everybody's got a gift, everybody's got a skill set, but my skill set at the time was I knew classic cars and I knew how to buy and sell classic cars.
Oh,
And so I'm like, how am I going to put this? How am I going to get this out there? And how am I going to utilize this quickly? I knew a guy in Minnesota. He came down to Texas and was looking for rust free classic cars. And he left me his business card. So when I went home, I grabbed that business card and I started driving around. And I found the classic car. I called him up. This is before cell phones, so I literally had to ask the homeowner, "Can I borrow your phone to make a long distance phone call?" People nowadays don't even know what a long distance phone call is anymore, man. Shoot. And so I got on the phone and I sat there and I told the guy, I said, "Hey, man, I found that 69 Roadrunner you're looking for." I
mm-hmm,
said, "Sitting right here." He goes, "Tell me about it." I said, "It's got a little dent here, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Here's the
mm-hmm,
damage." And he says, "Okay, that sounds good. How much does he want for it?" I put my hand over the phone. I said, "Hey, how much you want for it?" He says, $1,500. I
uh
said, "He wants $3,200." He goes, "I'll take it. I'll wire you the money."
Man.
Bam. And I was like, there we go. Rent's paid for. Now I can get to work. And so that's how I started, man. That's exactly how I started.
Oh my gosh, man. Look, oh man. So Ron, look, that is a priceless story. I'm literally over here like literally still twisting around in my skin over here because it's so good. So you have bought and sold like companies. Like that's
Yeah.
been was you've done this. Let's talk about that. So you got started with that. So you knew this arena. So that tells me automatically you got to be a gearhead. You love cars. So you capitalized on that passion that you had. And then what happened after that?
Well, then I realized again, like I explained to your audience before, it doesn't matter. Everybody has the skills to be a millionaire. You just don't have the right puzzle pieces. So
Mhm.
I had the skills to flip cars. If I
Mhm.
had the skills to flip cars, I had the skills to flip a house. I have the skills to flip a business. I have the skills to do anything. And so that's what I did. I shifted my vision. Instead of flipping a car for $5,000, started flipping businesses for $50,000 or $150,000 or
Mhm.
200,000.
Mhm.
And so I started doing that. What I did at first is I built a business, and then I built it from scratch, and then I sold it. And when I sold it, it was the happiest day of my life. And I realized, dang, I'd like to sell business every day. And so I went to start another business to do it. And I'm like, screw this, man. This takes too long to build it. I was like, I'm going to take this money and go buy this business that's for sale because he doesn't know how to run it. And
Mhm.
I do. And I'm going to turn it around. And I know exactly how to make it look good
Mhm.
so that people want to buy it
Mhm.
and what the numbers need to be. Because a lot of people, and I'm sure you've heard this from business owners before, they have this attitude where this business wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me, or I built this business from the ground up and had, and my DNA is all through this business, those kind of attitude, right?
Mhm.
Well, then you're just buying a job. Why do I want your business? And so I would buy a business and then I would restructure it, fix it, improve the marketing, build a better team, whatever it took, and I'd have a year or two exit strategy, and then I would flip that business. And so I remember one time I bought a cleaning business. The lady's, I've got $30,000 in contracts. And I was like, okay. So I bought a cleaning business for 30,000 bucks. And 2 years later, I sold it for 1.5 because she just didn't know what she had. She was just so burnt out. She didn't realize what she had, and I just refaced it. All I did was reface it. She had all her employees going out in their own minivans and stuff like that. Well, I went and I bought minivans and I had them all labeled and had everybody in the same uniform. That instantly made us look legit. And then because we looked legit, I got bigger contracts and I was able to get the banks and I was able to get the police stations and all this stuff. And so we got all that done and then moved and branched out into a couple of other cities. And then I was making sure that I was out of it. I've always built a business to sell. So I made sure that I had managers in place, I had people in place. And you need to ask yourself, this is one of the questions I always ask people is, can you leave for Hawaii for a month, come back and your business still be going? And
Mhm.
if the answer is yes, then you have a business. If the answer is no, you have a job. And so I worked until I got it to where it ran on its own, and then I put it up for sale.
So Robert Kiyosaki, we talk about him or in some of his books sometimes on the show, or I say about the books, we make reference to it. But he cash flow quadrant. You familiar with self-employed business owner and investor, and with our agents here in our company, I always explaining to them, look, if nothing happens when you're not there, then you're just merely self-employed. You're not a business owner. You can put business owner behind your name or associated with your name all you want to. That doesn't make you one. The true test is what you said. Can I leave town for a while and everything continues to run? That doesn't mean
Yep.
that you ain't got to make a phone call or something of that nature or feel whatever this, here, that, and the third. But nonetheless, you are not required to physically be present every day. That's not what you want. That's not a business owner. That's just merely somebody self-employed, really. So that is awesome. Now, you guys had a TV show. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I had a show on Discovery Channel called Blue Collar Backers. Uh-huh.
So the premise of that show is what we're talking about. Going in business. Let's figure out how we can get it, how we can grow it. Is that about right?
Yep.
Tell us about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I'd help businesses and turn them around. Again, it's thinking differently. And so I had a gentleman come to me. Probably my favorite episode was the bush pilot episode. A guy came to me. He had a bush pilot training school,
Uh,
and I thought that was a really cool idea, but it was up in Denver and there's no bush. There's no bush there. And the mountains are right there, and you have to get over the mountains in order to get to some good landing spots.
uh-huh.
And a lot of these people that are training aren't ready to tackle flying over the mountains. And so I sat there for weeks trying to figure out how to solve this problem for him. And I went up to Wyoming to a friend of mine who has a ranch. And he had the opposite problem. He had a huge ranch and a huge hunting lodge, and he wasn't quite rented out all the time. He was
Mhm.
only rented out during hunting season, but the rest of the year it was dead. Well, it just so happened that the rest of the year was exact times when the Bush Pilot Training School was fully back. And so what I did is I said, why don't you take your Bush Pilot Training School to Wyoming and land up there? And then this guy's got this beautiful hunting lodge, so you guys can live in this hunting lodge. You can spend the whole week taking off and landing on all these different locations across his ranch because he had, geez, it was huge. I can't even remember anymore. It was like 150,000 acre ranch or something. It was, he owned like half of Wyoming. And so that's what we did. I just put two people together that worked in good harmony with each other. So now this guy has got his lodge rented out, and this guy's got his problem solved with multiple locations in one spot, multiple different landing scenarios for his bush pilot training school. So after that, he was booked out for like 3 or 4 years, and so he's always booked out. I called him a little while ago, and he was still booked out 3 or 4 years. So it's just
So
putting the people together.
so what I just heard you talk about is being a solution. You're the
Mhm.
solution for people's, okay, look, my business is doing this. You are a solution that is able to enhance the value of the business by simply making simple edits, changes like what you said. This person is having this experience in their business. This person is having this experience. There's a gap or a lack. And essentially, if you put the two together, then they become a whole. And then you solve and remedy the problem. And the business is more profitable, which means it's more valuable, which means that when you sell it, it's worth more.
Exactly.
Ding, ding, ding.
Exactly.
That's
Yep.
really what it is. So you have bought and sold roughly, Ron, how many businesses?
I've owned over 40 companies and I've had 40 successful exits.
That's awesome. And by successful exit means that you are exiting, if you will, and forgive the pun for our listeners, exit strategies, exit Realty Low Country Group, but you're exiting profitably.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, 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 yeah. When I say 40 successful exits, I mean I either started or bought a company at a lower price and sold it for a higher price and exited with a happy buyer and I was a happy seller and everything was good to go. And so, yeah, everybody's happy.
I love it. I love it. I love it. There's one piece of your story that we didn't really touch on. There's sometimes, and forgive, I don't even know where this just literally just popped in my head. But if you're a hip hop fan and you listen to Drake, he has a song, You Started from the Bottom, Now I'm Here. So we're talking about where you are now, but you broke your back when you were young.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was 18, I flipped a car and broke my back and don't being stupid on the road racing around and I was paralyzed from the waist down.
Wow. So you had to kind of relearn.
Yeah, I had to learn to walk again. Yeah, it took about 6 months.
Wow. Wow. So going back to that point and then bringing yourself all the way through to where you are now, you're an avid traveler. You do things all over almost every continent, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly, right?
Yeah, I've motorcycled or adventure traveled just about everywhere. I've been to the Arctic Circle, down to South America, Central America. Yeah, all over.
But Ron, what's your driver? What's your why as far as what you're doing? And you're helping people do the same thing. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, now I guess that evolves. Well, at first, I was just hungry. I was broke and I was hungry. And but my why now has kind of evolved where I'll give you a cool story. So I was down here, I retired, I sold all my businesses, I retired. I bought this ranch down here in Southern Colorado and
Mhm.
decided I was done. And I was in a hardware store. And this kid recognized my voice from Discovery Channel. He heard me talking 2 aisles over and he recognized my voice. And he comes over and he says, "Are you Ron from Blue Collar Backers?" I said, "Yeah, that show was 4 years ago at the time." I was like, "Yeah, but that's been a while." And he's, "Oh man!" And so he just started asking me all these questions, right? And this kid's got a cool story. So I started him on. He wanted to start a landscaping company, and I said, "I tell you what, you're 17 years old." I was like, "You got time?" I was like, "I tell you what." Buy a lawnmower and cut all the lawns you can possibly cut and save every dime you can this summer. And so that's what he did. And he cut and saved up like, I can't remember, 10, 12 grand.
Mhm.
And then what we did is we took that, teamed it up with an SBA loan, and he bought the local landscaping company. And now this kid is making high six figures, has got 10 employees, and runs 4 trucks, I think. Yeah, 4 trucks now, and owns it all. And he's 21 or 22, something like that. Yeah.
So I'm gonna share a story. So my business partner, I have a second real estate office location in Columbia, and my partner, he has a partner, a young kid that basically met him somewhere at some event or something. They struck up a conversation. He's asking him about real estate. And he, in turn, says, hey, look, you can come work with me, work for me, be an assistant or whatever. And the kid went and worked with him. In South Carolina, at the time, you can get a real estate license at 18. So he got his real estate license as soon as he turned 18. So then now he's working transactions with them. And he's now 19 and change. He made 70, $80,000, I think, last year. This year, he's probably on track to make six figures while he's in college.
Nice,
you know,
nice.
and now he's looking to, okay, I need to be buying investment property. I need to buy either a duplex or multifamily or something that I can rent the other rooms or whatever out, or rent the other apartments or units out. So that's how you quote unquote get started. That whole concept and whole idea is boom. That's what you're talking about, Ron.
And here's the other thing is, so when I moved down here, this was kind of a side hobby of mine. I had 40 companies. Remember, I had over 40 companies and I never owned any real estate. On my own house, but I never did any real estate this whole time.
Uh-huh.
And I came down here, I told my wife, you know what? I really want to do real estate. I really want to give it a try. And so I bought 35 properties in 2 years in a small town. We live in a town of 4,500 people. I've got a $5 million real estate portfolio. I made a
Mm,
mistake on every one of those deals and still
okay.
profited. You know what I mean? And so that's what I want people to understand. When I remodeled a house, I might have put white fridge in instead of stainless, or I might have painted the house the wrong color, then it didn't come out as good as I thought it would, or I sanded the floors and when I should have just covered them and put a nice covering on them, I sanded them and tried to make them look good and they didn't look as
Uh-huh.
good as they could have. In other words, I made a mistake on every one of those deals, and every one of those deals I profited from. And so just fail forward, just keep going. It doesn't matter. Just learn and roll with it to the next one.
I love that learn and roll with it because we don't roll with it. We get defeated.
Everybody's scared of failure, and people need to understand failure is the process. Michael Jordan didn't play basketball because he was afraid of missing a shot. We wouldn't have Michael Jordan. And
True.
so everybody misses a shot. Everybody does. Just miss them and
Mm.
don't worry about it. Put in the work, put in the time, and you will fail your way to the top.
So Ron, let's get to how are you helping people now, how people can get in contact with you. Cause I hear your passion, man. You got a lot more to give.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I told people, I said, I'm going to do 100 people. I'm going to help 100 people make $1 million. And that's my goal. And when I say $1 million, I'm not talking about $1 million evaluation. I'm talking about $1 million cash in the bank, not playing around. I'm talking about a real $1 million and quickly. If you're listening to this and you've got a company you're making $100,000 a year, I can get you to $1 million in 1 year. Seriously. I mean, it's not that hard. It's just thinking about things differently and changing up the way you look at your strategy. And so, yeah, if anybody's interested, you can go to mentoringgiants.com and book a call with me. It's me, it's only me, and we custom build a strategy for you, get you to your goal. And I stick with you the whole way through, and we'll get you to that $1 million mark. It's not that hard. It really is. I can say that on this side because I've done it so many times now. I used to do a challenge every year. The people that followed me would have me do a challenge every year, starting on January 1, where I would start with $0 and I had to build up to a certain amount of money. At first, it was like six figures in 6 months. That was the thing. I would try to get to build a six figures in 6 months. And then it got to the point where I think that last year, I think I did a 1.1 by February 20th or something. And it was like, this is too easy now. It really is. Once you've done it so many times, it's just easy. I can show anybody how to make $1 million. It really is that easy.
Ron, I'm gonna say this as we get to a close for today. People forget that. So once you know the road, first time you travel somewhere, maybe you need GPS, maybe you need a road map or whatever. Once you made that trip a couple of times or a time or two, then you remember it. Some people
Yep.
remember it the first time, but most times it takes people two or three times to remember it. So no matter where, they know how to get back to where they came from or get back to where they were prior. So that's what you just demonstrated, what you just talked about, articulated in what you said, which is, hey, look, I know how to make $1 million. I know how to do this. So no matter where you put me at, I can get myself to $1 million. You can put me at zero. I can get myself to $1 million in a short period of time because I know a path. I know the pathways to get there very well. So, man, that is amazing. So, Ron, I'm going to ask you what I call, and I reference this at times as I might drop question. It's kind of that 2020 hindsight. You know what everybody says, if I knew what I knew now, back then, what would it have looked like? So, for you, if you'd have known it way back yonder when, would you have done or could you have done differently to essentially catapult yourself further than where you are now?
I would have told myself back then that $1 million isn't that much money.
Oh, I love
Because I remember when I was in my 20s and I made like, I don't know, one year I made like 200,000. I'm sitting there playing video games and relaxing and going, yeah, man, I made it. I got it. And I'm like, shoot, man, it you spend it so fast, man. It goes so quick when you got it. And it's steak dinner, lobster. Before you know it, man, it's gone. Family comes into town, you blow $600 on a meal, or 1,000 bucks, 1,500 bucks on a meal. You're like, damn. So yeah, it goes quick. And so yeah, I would say I wish I would have hustled harder when I was younger instead of thinking I made it when I made $250,000 thinking I made it. I wish I would have pushed harder sooner.
That is very real. Something I say all the time to people. We get comfortable quickly. We get comfortable quickly. We think we made it when we still have so much farther to go to quote unquote actually have arrived. So, Ron, I want to say thank you, man, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be on the show with us today.
You bet, man. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Good deal. I appreciate it. Ron, thank you for being a part, if you will, of the Exit Strategies Radio Show family, for again taking that time out, being here with us today. For our listeners, guys, look, y'all got some real content from a real guy. All right. He's out here really doing it, and he's really helping people to make their million. So if you are serious about it, if you're ready to commit, if you're ready to quote unquote take action and not just act like it, then at that point in time, I want you to reach out. I want you to go to mentoring giants and .com, and I want you to go ahead and hit schedule a call, and I want you to talk to Ron so he can put you on your pathway to getting you to your million. And guys, when y'all get that million, y'all don't forget about your boy over here.
Dang right.
So, guys, look here, as we wrap up today's show, I want to thank y'all all for listening. I want to thank you for tuning in. Most importantly, I want to thank you for doing something for somebody else, because that's what God charged us and gave us to do. Y'all know how I feel. Y'all know what I say. I always put the two of those things together, and I give it to you this way, which is I love you. I love you. I love you. And we're going to see you guys out there